Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Thoughts and prayers. Are you all tired of hearing that? Does it make a difference? Right now, one of our most important and most influential ministers' conference, clergy conferences, is taking place in Memphis, the place of Dr. King's martyrdom, his Calvary, if you will. Two of the individuals who are involved in that, including the head of the Sammy DeWitt Proctor Conference, are on the line with us. We welcome them both. First of all, the Reverend Dr. Iva Carruthers. Iva, good morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you, brother?
I'm fine, sister. Good to hear your voice. And Pastor Traci Blackmon is also on the line with us. Pastor Traci, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. It's good to talk to you. Well, we've got this crisis that's developed overnight. Iva, what has the conference discussed? What happened in Florida last night, and just from the conference's theological perspective, you know, people are tired of hearing the phrase thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, and then nothing gets done. And we're clergy. We promote prayer and thought. But what do we do in a situation like this when people are tired of hearing that, Iva?
Well, I think we have to organize our voices and our economic power to confront the systems that have allowed for the kind of culture of violence that was talked about in your last segment, and that is, you know, very much related to the culture of violence that is state violence at the highest level, driven by lobbyists such as the NRA who prioritize, you know, money over the lives of people. We're here in Memphis, as you said, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the resurrection of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who fell to an assassin's bullet, but whose words have become, you know, guiding footprints for us. And we know that he talked about this triad of militarism, racism, and materialism. And so this shooting is just symbolic and emblematic of those three things coming together in relationship to a society, a culture, which values money and things over people. So we took a moment of silence last night at our honoree banquet event, and we have had conversations that certainly have addressed issues of violence in the society.
Pastor Traci, what's your response to this ongoing violence and the public's frustration with some of the language and platitudes of just, you know, saying thoughts and prayers but then doing nothing?
Yes, well, I certainly echo what Dr. Carruthers has said. It's important that we note here and place responsibility, in my opinion, where it rightly belongs. This is the 46th day of 2018. We're only 46 days into this new year. And as of yesterday, with yesterday's shooting, it is the 18th school shooting in 2018. I'm not talking about several months. I'm just talking about in these 46 days, we've had 18 school shootings, and 8 of those have had some level of death associated with the attacks that have happened in our schools, all because we have a government that refuses to even deal with safe gun legislation. So I am like those people who are tired of saying thoughts and prayers and not doing anything else. We have a system in our government, a leadership in our government that is beholden to the NRA in a way that it refuses to act in the best interest of our children. This latest shooting was a 19-year-old Why does a 19-year-old need an assault weapon? Why do we have to have citizens who have access to assault weapons? And I've heard the arguments that guns don't kill, people kill. That's true. But if we had gun legislation that was proactive, that banned assault weapons altogether and made it more difficult for people to get firearms, we certainly would not be looking at the level of death and the level of schools death in particular that we are in this moment. So thoughts and prayers are not enough. We must push our leadership. We must push our nation to safe gun measures and responsible gun legislation.
No question about it. Folks, our number 866-99-SERIOUS, 866-997-4748. I think we know what Dr. King would have said in the midst of all this violence, don't we?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he made it very clear, and nothing has changed. This country is the greatest purveyor of violence globally. And we, as people of African descent, have been the most terrorized and traumatized by the level of, in the words of Dr. Sam Proctor, the lack of compassion, a culture which is driven by a lack of compassion and then justified with theological underpinning that falsify the Word of God and betray the Word of God.
Indeed. Pastor Traci, share with our audience because we're headed there in April and others will be as well, but share with our audience the spiritual energy that you and others are witnessing and experiencing just being there in Memphis on these 50 years since Dr. King's martyrdom.
Yes, well, as you know, Memphis has been preparing for this anniversary for quite a while, and we certainly could feel it when we touched down here in Memphis. There is a spiritual energy, in my opinion, that resides here anyway. Memphis has a rich history, not just because Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated here, but also because of the Memphis sanitation worker strike, which was the reason that he was here in the first place. Last night at our closing gathering to honor the elders among us who have contributed to this fight, we were once again channeling that spirit of resistance, that spirit of power that still is in Memphis. And earlier during the week, we had an event that honored the sanitation workers who remained from the 1968 strike. 6 of them were with us, and they were yet proclaiming, "I am a man," even as they received awards from us. Also earlier this week, we joined with Fight for 15 to march the actual route that the sanitation marchers marched on February 12th when they began their strike. And we had serious conversation we will continue to do at Proctor, as we always do, about then and now, what progress has been made, what leaves remains to be done. So this energy around resistance, around strength, around endurance, around staying in the struggle until the end is palpable here in Memphis. And I imagine that it will only grow stronger as we get closer to that April 4th date.
Pastor Traci Blackmon, the Reverend Dr. Ava Carruthers with us, joining us live from Memphis. Iva, for those who don't know, tell me a little bit about the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, how it came to be, and what its mission is.
Well, the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference is really, really pleased and honored that we were able to celebrate our 15th anniversary in the backdrop of this 50th year commemoration. And so 15 years ago, there was a conversation really among 3 of us, Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes from Dallas, Texas, Senior Pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church, and Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright, Jr., Senior Pastor at the time of Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago, both of them were really concerned about how one manages a growing mega church, quote, and at the same time not lose one's prophetic edge and become a model for how to bring together the best of ministry, both in terms of the vertical arm of the cross, teaching the word of salvation, but also the horizontal arm of the cross, lifting up what we must do to really build the community of God.
Yeah.
And I came into that conversation, and we decided we would just send a call out to see if there were others who were feeling that there was a silence from the remnant of the civil rights movement, the prophetic tradition of the Black church, to really speak truth to power and to create models of ministry, to engage young people, to provide opportunities for those who were coming into ministry to sit with seasoned pastors, and to engage clergy people so that collectively our voices and our action and our ministries could make the difference in terms of transformation, not just reform of society, but transformation of society. And it's that ministry and that mission of being a voice for justice, doing that by having clear vision, by creating opportunities to do education, advocacy, and as Reverend Traci just said, to actually do action is the mission of the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. And I just want to add that that mission is global in its vision. We are a non-governmental organization of the NGO, and one of the things we did yesterday was had a very serious conversation with Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson and Reverend Alan Bozak from South Africa, and Bill Lucy, the labor leader, around the issues of the interconnections between our struggles. And Reverend Traci left us with a profound question that we need to contemplate, and it ties into what you were talking about in your last segment once again, which is the role of 21st century technology to connect us in different and unique ways that will empower us to really be a voice to penetrate and transform the systems of oppression.
Indeed,
from the ground up.
Indeed. Pastor Traci Blackmon, the Reverend Dr. Ava Carruthers with us, both attending the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. Before we go, and we'll try to get a call or two in, but the two of you, are you all participating in the Women's Power Rising Conference in Atlanta as well next week?
Absolutely. Reverend Traci, give us a shout out.
We will both be there. Time and again, Black women have proven their political prowess in consistently exercising our franchise and becoming the most consistent voting bloc in the nation. It was Black women who made the difference in the governor races in New Jersey and in Virginia, and of course in the Alabama U.S. Senate race, helping Doug Jones become the first Democrat elected in 50 years. Time and time again, when the numbers come out, people say Black women showed up, Black women stood up, and now Black women are going to gather up and begin to talk about our power, our consistency, our political presence, and we no longer want that to be taken for granted. We want our platform reviewed and a part of the solution that this country so desperately needs. So next weekend in Atlanta, February 22nd through the 25th, 1,000 Black women are going to convene at the Westin downtown for a conference called Power Rising. If you will go to www.powerrising.org, you'll find out more about our gathering, more about the 5 pillars that we will be looking at and addressing in our gathering, more about those who are supporting our efforts, including Dr. Ivor Carruthers, who's on this call with me, and Cicely Tyson and Jennifer Lewis, and so many other people that we could name, as well as those we can't name, to come together and spend these days thinking and collectively deciding what our next moves will be and what we will be demanding for our loyalty from now on politically.
Indeed, and your unconditional loyalty as it has been, and it probably doesn't need to be unconditional anymore. I'm afraid our time is up too. I wish we had more time with the two of you goddesses, but we love and appreciate you. Also want to shout out, they're also part of the Divine Nine. Michael's texting me. These are AKAs themselves. We were talking about the Divine Nine in the earlier segment. Thank you both for joining us. Ivor Carruthers, Pastor Traci Blackmon, live from Memphis, the Sammy DeWitt Proctor Conference. Wish I was there with you. Please give everybody my love too, Ivor, okay?
Will do.
All right, and we look forward to hearing all about Atlanta next week as well. Thank you both very, very much, okay?
All righty, thank you.
Great day.
All right.